Hello, everyone. Looks like we got a couple people here. Figure we'll wait just a little while longer because it's got about a minute for the actual start of the meeting. So, but it looks like we got 9 people or 7 people. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time to attend this meeting. All right, it is now 6 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get the meeting started. So again, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate you attending this meeting. What we're talking about today is the Pleasant Hill Road Multipurpose Pathway. A while back, the City Council gave us direction to go ahead and complete the design plans for this project. So what we're showing you this evening is the 75% design. This is mostly just to show how things are fleshing out. This isn't to talk about alternatives or major design changes. That we've left that realm. And now what we're going to be talking about is what this project would look like if and when it's built. There currently is no funding for this project. The City Council has directed staff to come back to the City Council with a scoping of an east side pathway. So for those of you that wish to participate in those discussions, we will be having a public meeting for that, and as well as going to the City Council meeting. And we'll be talking about the pros and cons of an east side pathway versus the center median pathway design. So the reason we're completing this design is it is a requirement of the grant funding that we've been spending that we complete the design. So that is what we're doing. Total estimated cost for this project for construction is $3.4 million. We're envisioning completing the design plans in the fall of this year. And as I said, the construction of this project is to be determined, and the funding has not been determined yet either. 2021, the city received grant funding for this project from the state to conduct technical studies and complete final design plans for a safe pedestrian and bicycle pathway along the center median of Pleasant Hill Road, from Mount Diablo Boulevard to Stanley Boulevard, to bypass the existing on and off ramps. That was the intent of this whole idea, was to provide a path of travel that didn't go across those on and off ramps. The pathway would provide a protected route for pedestrians and bicyclists along Pleasant Hill Road, and locations where additional width is available, like at the Mount Diablo end. Landscaping has been added between the travel lanes and the traffic barriers that would be in the center median. So I think what the most useful thing to do at this point is just kind of go through the major design elements. We'll show and tell on the plans so that people can see what we're doing. Not a whole lot has changed from the previous public meetings. The design plans are just a little bit more flushed out is the primary difference. So let me share my screen here. That way you don't have to look at me, you can look at the plans. Grace, can you tell me if
yes,
you can see
fine.
those?
Yes, I can see.
All righty. So, all right, here are the cross sections to kind of give you an idea as to what pathway will look like. This first piece of cross-section here is at the Mount Diablo end of the project. As you can see, there's some landscaping here that would vary between 2 feet and 10 feet, at least on the, let me zoom in a bit. There we go. 2 feet and 10 feet on the west side, 5 to 11 feet on the east side. And then we'd actually have enough room for a 16-foot wide path. Memory serves, in my comments to the designer, we're going to ask that that be maintained at 14 feet, which is the design standard for the multi-use pathway. And then that extra right-of-way can be used for even more landscaping. As you move away from the intersection with Mount Diablo, you develop this configuration where we're putting in concrete barriers. So these are the 3.5 foot tall K-rails that you commonly see on freeways. And then in between those, you have a 14-foot wide pathway area. 10 feet of that is primary path. And then you have 2 feet of shoulders on either side of the pathway. Outside of the K-rails and outside of these curbs, you have a 2 foot wide shoulder. That's Caltrans design standard. Let me see if I can get to, I think the striping plan shows that a little bit better. Bear with me. There we go. So this shows the Mount Diablo Boulevard end, where you see a 14-foot wide pathway and 11-foot lanes, and you see 2 foot shoulders on the outsides of the K-rails. As many of you are aware, when you're driving on a freeway, being right up against a K-rail with an 11-foot lane is mildly unnerving, even at low speeds. So that's why there's that 2 foot shoulder. So that's the first key design element, is the size of this. As you notice at the intersection with Mount Diablo, we moved away from the scramble intersection because that was not supported by the public, and it would create additional travel delays moving through the project. So that has been eliminated from it. Initially, we were trying to get rid of the free right turn, Pleasant Hill and the on-ramp. However, unfortunately, the design costs associated with that are higher than our budget. So we're leaving that out at this point in time. However, if and when this project or an East Side project moves forward, we can always, if funding allows, add that design and work back into the scope of work. The difficulty with this one is it will require Caltrans approval because that is their traffic signal. And as you can see, the right-of-way kind of wiggles through here. This is all on Caltrans property, so they have a lot of say in what we do with that. Just going to go through my major design elements. So this is going to look a little frenetic as I hop from one page to the next. Apologize for that. But the key things are at the ends for the most part. At the Deer Hill Road end of the project, the southbound lanes of Pleasant Hill Road will shift a full lane width to the west. And what you see here for the frontage improvements, you see a driveway here, you see the informal or the formalization of the drop-off and pickup area, another sidewalk, the bulb of the street shifting to the west. This is all going to be constructed as part of the Terraces project, which is, I believe, slated to break ground in spring. So that's why this is shown on here. So that's kind of that. So this is this end of the intersection. You can see the lane shift here. The nose at the end of these pathways will have an 8-inch tall concrete curb. So that's a little taller than a standard curb. The idea being that offers a little bit more protection for the people waiting to cross. Access to the center median will be provided only at the intersections with Deer Hill Stanley and down at Mount Diablo Boulevard. So there are no access points mid-block to the pathway. The sidewalks on either side of Pleasant Hill Road will not be touched as part of this project. The terraces will be building out the sidewalk on the west side of the street. And we will be building a striped shoulder leading up to the turn pocket. This is somewhat similar to what you see out there now. The idea being to shy the cars away from the sidewalk in this area. Unfortunately, the ability to shy the cars away from the sidewalk elsewhere is rather minimal. So you will have 11-foot lanes in most cases, and then about 1.5 feet worth of curb and gutter, or the gutter portion of the curb and gutter out there, and then the sidewalk. So the vehicles will be moving closer to the sidewalk, but the intention is for individuals to use the center pathway rather than the sides of the road. However, if individuals wish to continue to use the side of the road, they are more than welcome to do so. There are RRFBs that are being installed on the on and off ramps as we speak. This has been going on for over a year now. Right now, there are poles installed and conduits, but the signs aren't up yet and the power isn't in place yet. I do not know when Caltrans will finish that. I would have thought by now they would have, but I think they're having difficulty sourcing the signs. Quite a few people are installing these, so I think they're in short supply, but hopefully they'll have those done in the near future. Let's see, so back to the improvements that are associated with the terraces, just to kind of show you what we're doing over here. You'll have an extra trap lane. So there'll be 3 lanes in southbound. So one of those is dedicated to the freeway on-ramp. That's what a trap lane is for. So that will be built. As I said, the sidewalks will be put in and a drop-off and pickup area as well. The right turn pocket onto Stanley Boulevard will be preserved. And the left turn pocket from northbound Pleasant Hill Road onto Deer Hill Road is being lengthened as part of the terraces project. It's one of the conditions of approval that they have, is to extend that turn pocket. The project will eliminate parking on both sides of Pleasant Hill Road. So the bit of parking that we have there now is going to go away. The project will also eliminate the bike lane markings on Pleasant Hill Road, and cyclists will be directed to the center median. That said, cyclists that are comfortable riding on the street will be allowed to do so, and we will put the green bike sharrows on the street. They're already out there in some locations, and we'll just continue that theme so that cyclists, the more advanced cyclists, can continue to use the street for their primary path of travel. Let's see. Kind of got ahead of myself, so I'm making sure I hit everything. The landscaping that I had mentioned, that is being installed here at the Mount Diablo end of the project. And those are the kind of key features to this. Let me see if there's something else that I missed, flipping back and forth so quickly. I think those are the big things. So with that quick summary, I'll open up the meeting for people that have questions. I think I'll, let's stop sharing for now, but I can always bring it back up if people want to talk about a specific thing. So if you have a question, or, feel free to raise your hand, and I will do my best to answer your questions.
The first speaker is Stella. Witherspoon.
Very good. Good evening, Stella. Hey, Stella, I think you're muted.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hi. Thanks, Matt, so much for the presentation. Appreciate it. So I know you've done a lot of hard work. This has been a really hard project, and you've found mitigations for the impacts of the project around Deer Hill and Stanley. But I'd like to know about options for mitigating the reduction in the east sidewalk buffer. Now, currently, there's approximately 8 to 12-foot buffer between the cars and the sidewalk. And a consultant schematic that was discussed at the January 8 council meeting showed that this design reduces the buffer to 2.5 to 4.25 feet. But I just heard you say the buffer between the cars and the sidewalks is now reduced further to 1.5 feet. Did I hear that right?
It kind of depends. So I think there might be areas where you're down to 1.5 feet, 2 feet. There are other areas where it's wider. The geometry isn't super consistent. So for example, if you get near the westbound Highway 24 off-ramp, there's quite a bit more space there. But as you move north, the space gets thinner. So it's unfortunately not super consistent.
Yeah, I know before it was ranging, good 2 feet in difference, but the minimum at that point in January was 2.5 feet. So, I mean, this is concerning. I mean, this change increases that level of stress of the sidewalk. It's cross purposes with the Caltrans installation of the flashing beacons, pedestrian flashing beacons, and improved crosswalk lighting, which they're spending about $1 million for. So I guess what I'd like to know is, what are the options for the consultants to draw plans for a narrower class 4 protected bikeway? The class 4 specs don't require 2-foot shoulders within the barriers. So that's 4 feet that could be saved and then returned to the sidewalk buffer. And it seems like that solution would meet all needs. And so,
Right. So
wondering,
let me answer that question first.
Create plans for a narrower center median class 4 protected bike way.
Right. So unfortunately, we're beyond that point at this point. We're at 75% plans. And the grant was not for a class 4 facility. So we have to comply with the terms of the grant. So we will be finishing this design 100% plans as we are required to do it for the grant money. However, in the future, possibly as part of the discussion for the options with the east side pathway that we will hopefully be having towards the end of the year, we can certainly open up that to a broader discussion of changing the design for the center median, if that's what people would like. However, as I mentioned earlier, there is no funding allocated for any of these types of design changes. The scoping of the east side is being done by me, so we don't have any direct costs other than just my time associated with that. But if that sparks a bigger discussion at that meeting about wanting to perhaps reevaluate the center median into an 8-foot, so that there can be a bigger buffer between the sidewalk and the vehicle lanes, that would be the time to do that.
Okay, so can't go back and ask for a revision of the grant terms, a change of the grant terms. But it is possible to do design for a class 4 facility at a later point if there was money available.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and the class 4 that I'm referring to, I think I saw the specs said 10-foot was the preferred width. It's just that the shoulders are not required. You just have to have a 2-foot buffer in which the barrier sits. And so that's your K-rail width, I think, right?
Yeah.
So that's where I was calculating 2 and 2 for.
It's certainly a good idea if that's what people want to do. I mean, there's also the east side idea that has been bandied about. So these are all ideas that are best reserved for a conversation when we're talking about the pros and cons of an east side versus the center median.
Okay. Okay. Well, this is really helpful. I'm glad
Right.
to hear that there's possibility. And one request though, is it possible to get from the consultants annotations on the plans that show the buffer, the sidewalk buffer? Because right now it's just lines and you have to just kind of squint and try to infer if it's 1 foot, 2
Um,
3 foot, 4 foot, etc.
Yeah, I mean, these are construction set drawings, so they're not necessarily intended to show every little buffer. It's so that you can build it. But I think that's a reasonable thing to ask for is, can we show more information on buffer between sidewalk and vehicle lanes?
And vehicle lane, yeah, that would be helpful, because on the rough schematic that you shared in January, they had included dimensions at certain points, which was really helpful.
Yeah, because that was more of a, for discussion purposes, this is construction drawings, and typically in construction, you pick something that you reference everything off of, and that is more than likely going to be the K-rail. So you peel all your dimensions off the K-rail, and whatever's left over is left over, be it 2 feet, 1 foot, 10 feet, whatever. So that's why it's dimensioned the way it is, because this is the standard dimensioning approach for construction documents.
I see.
But I can ask them to add it. It's not going to hurt anything.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, yeah, especially if it's decreased. I think that's important for the public to.
Sure.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
You bet.
The next speaker is Libby Henry, followed by Eric and Jessica Badelov.
Hi, Libby. Oh, I don't think Libby's in yet.
There she is.
Hi, Libby.
Hi. Yeah, well, unfortunately, I have several questions, but I'll try to boil them down. I just had a recent meeting with the city manager and Tracy, Nairoop and Tracy, about budget. And so this is one of the things that concerns me so much about this project overall, not to mention what I personally think of it. But so I'm trying to figure out, they told me that this project is not in the budget, in the city's budget, the one that they're asking us to, for a 0.5% sales tax increase for. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And none of the money that we've spent to date has come out of the general fund either.
So all of the hours, are you like logging your hours that you spend on this?
Yeah, no, we don't parse our hours out like that. So technically speaking,
you are hired
anything
by
I
the
do,
city of Lafayette, correct?
yeah, I'm a city employee on,
So
so arguably,
it seems
yes.
to me that if I'm understanding the picture clearly, but you're spending hours, city time hours on this project, not getting paid by the city, but you're still spending city time hours on that.
No, I'm being paid by the city for my time. The project grant is not covering my staff time.
See, this is contrary to what they just told me. They said that they're not paying you for this. So, so there's a clarification that needs to happen there, because, that's one of the things that I had a problem with, asking us for more money when you're spending city time on this project, which, I don't know if you're familiar with the billionaire city up in Solano County.
Only passingly.
Oh, okay. Well, it just got defeated because it is overwhelmingly not popular. And they're not even going to put it on the ballot.
Okay.
But I feel like, this project is overwhelmingly unpopular. 95% of the input that you have gotten over this time has been, it's not necessary. I mean, especially when we're facing this budget crisis, but we're spending millions of dollars on something that, as far as I can tell, have you done, I don't know what it's called, a needs analysis? How many
No.
people would actually be using
Right.
this?
So that's not part of what we're going to be discussing tonight. If you wish to defer that kind of conversation and that's very good questions. If you want to defer those questions to later in the year when we're doing a pros and cons analysis between the center median and east side, and perhaps what Stella just suggested, reducing the width of the center median, that's probably the best time to talk about that sort of stuff. What I'm trying to focus the conversation on tonight is specific questions about this project, what this would look like, or if people have input like they would like the center median barriers painted purple or something. That's the sort of stuff I'm trying to garner from this meeting.
Okay. I did note that you have used the word hopefully several times in this. In other words, apparently you have no idea, and nobody has any idea about whether Caltrans is going to do whatever you said, that they're going to do, and, that things will work out or something. But
well, no, Caltrans is putting
I'm
in
just
the
having a real problem
RRFPs.
with going ahead with a project that is hugely unpopular just because you got some grant money. And I know you don't
Understand.
want to have this discussion, but it is relevant to this entire thing.
Totally understand. The grant money was for design, and the council directed me to finish the design so that we could meet our obligations under the grant.
So they
whether
are
we
paying you, so it should be in the budget.
They are not paying me. I'm being paid how I always get paid. The grant is not paying my salary. The grant is paying the design consultant that we hired to do the design work, to do the traffic analysis, all the stuff that we've been working on for the past couple of years.
Okay, well,
I understand where you're coming from, and I think a lot of your questions
I
are very
don't really
valid
think that
questions
you
that would be.
do.
Okay, well, very well
I mean,
then.
you say that the city is paying you, but then say that that the grant money is covering you.
No,
it
I have
can't be
never
both.
said that. I have never said that.
Okay, well then I'm confused. So you
Okay,
say the
well,
city is paying you,
let me
but
explain it again.
that's not in the budget.
Let me explain it again then. So how I'm being paid for is the way all staff is paid for. That's in the budget. The way the design work is being paid for, so the consultants that we hired to do all the design work, that is being paid for by the grant. Okay.
Okay. And you're not working on the design?
No,
You're just pulling it all together?
I'm just doing these public meetings. I'm providing oversight of the consultant. I'm providing comments to the consultant that I receive or that I come up with. I'm managing the design consultant.
Okay. I'm sorry that I can't be, I'm not an engineer. I don't come from that background or anything. So,
That's fine.
I can't be like Stella and ask in those terms.
Right. Well, I hope
I'm just having a real problem with, time and money spent versus, they're asking us for more money for the budget, and all of this is, very, very confusing and very upsetting. Because, I know that it's a very unpopular project, and if you did a study on the necessity, the need, who would use it, that would seem to make a lot more sense than going ahead with the design.
Right. The issue is we're almost done with the
you,
design.
Before you check out who the heck's going to use it.
Right.
That makes
But
no
we're almost
sense.
done. We're almost done with the design. So we're just going to keep going forward with that. So if you
Okay,
don't have any more questions, I'd like to give some other people
Yeah.
a chance to ask some
understood.
questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Libby.
The next speaker is Eric, followed by Jessica Batalov.
Hi, Eric. Welcome.
You started it. Hey, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys and the consultants for all the great work. There's a lot of good detail in these drawings. Really appreciate it. The one question I got for you is, with the warm weather this summer that's been cooking the city, is it possible to add shades at the ends of the bike path? I was thinking, the people using the path will be queuing up there as they wait for the signals. And during the fall months, spring months, it can be quite toasty out there on Pleasant Hill Road. Is there a potential opportunity to put some shade structures up on it, somewhere like a bus stop or something like that?
It might be possible. It's not part of the scope of the design work at the moment. If that's something that, if this project moves forward, if people wish to consider adding that, we can certainly look into it. I think that might be challenging to do at the Mount Diablo end, because that is in the Caltrans right away, and they're likely to have extra concerns. I think an additional concern might also be, how does that affect the sight distance for viewing the signals? So that would need to be looked at, but that is something, if this project moves forward, that we could look at, and I'll put that in my notes, that that's something we could look at. Kind of like getting rid of the free right turns.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those nice to haves that it could probably really help the value out for those waiting for the signal, because I think the signals could be up to a 1 minute wait for those in the middle.
Yeah, I don't recall at the moment.
I forget what the numbers are. Okay, awesome. That's great. It's great to see the project moving forward, and I appreciate you doing these public meetings.
You bet. Thank you for coming.
The next speaker is Jessica Batalov, followed by Steve Slosek.
Hello, Jessica. Welcome.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Thank you for holding this meeting and giving us an opportunity to comment, and for, just your time and commitment to this. I second what Eric said. If this moves forward, any possibility of having shade at either end would be fantastic. You mentioned getting just input on color of K-rails even, which I didn't know we could have much input on, but I think anything you can do to make it more aesthetically pleasing, and as opposed to just feeling like a concrete, kind of pathway, whether getting landscaping in down at the Mount Diablo end is fantastic, and recognizing the limitations of it on the other end. Can we bring in, I don't know, get a grant from muralists, or like having local artists be able to make those K-rails more aesthetically pleasing. The other thing that I was thinking about, and Eric alluded to this, is like the wait time around at the signals. I'm a resident in the Acalanes Avenue neighborhood, and my son and I often end up at the corner of Mount Diablo and Deer Hill and like Stanley, like that intersection, and with Pleasant Hill Road. And even with just our two bikes on like the corner by the gas station with the lamp, like with the light post there, it's very crowded and it's hard to navigate. So, with that in mind, like thinking about the ambition here, I think, is to like have volume of high schoolers kind of coming up. And so what's the feasibility of, and I don't know if you're even the right person to influence this, but the feasibility of having like all traffic stop, knowing we're not doing scramble things, but having all traffic stop, just so like the kids can move through that full like 90-degree section, both crosswalks, so that you're not getting additional congestion on that corner. Because like having any more than a couple adult-sized bikes there, like they're not going to fit. So, and I know they're putting in another crosswalk now, like a little bit further down on Stanley to get into the high school. And so I guess maybe you could like just like route the bikes like straight to that crosswalk, and maybe that's the vision. I'm not sure. But anyway, like having spent time on that corner with like one adult bike and one child-sized bike, it's tight.
What you're suggesting more or less is how a scramble intersection works. When you halt all the legs, that's a scramble intersection. So kind of what if I'm understanding what you're suggesting correctly, is perhaps a shorter duration all stop signal just to get across the crosswalks. I don't know if that's a standard practice. I've never seen that done, but when we get that, the beautiful thing about signal timing is you can play with it. So that's something that we can try out, these sorts of ideas. If this project is built, we can do that.
And I guess like the take home point is less about the signal timing and just like what can be done around congestion at that corner, because or really any of the like either of those corners where you've got a lot of bikes. If it's not the timing, then like what else would it be?
Right. So the only corner that's really super tight is the one next to the gas station. And I don't think we can do a whole lot to make it less tight because we don't have any right of way. So we're using up all the real estate we have. All the other sides of that intersection have pretty good amounts of space for the sidewalks. It's just that one side that's not quite as big.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Steve Slosek.
Good evening, Steve, and welcome.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Matt. Well, again, I want to start by thanking you for having these forums. I've attended a number of them, and they've been very helpful, and I know it takes a lot of your time, so thank you on that. I am a resident of on Nogales, of kind of that neighborhood off of Acalanes Avenue. One other thing is for the past 20 years or so, I'm recently retired, but I did commute by bike over kind of the exact between my home and BART, over essentially the exact path we're talking about. So I'm kind of familiar with a lot of that. Specific questions about the documents that you've put up there. One is the trap lane, the added lane is something that's new that I don't think we saw before. And I'm not sure I understand the motivation for it, since that between Deer Hill and Stanley and 24 going south and all the traffic problems that this intersection has, it's one location that I don't really ever remember seeing a traffic problem. Once you get through the signal there, I don't see traffic being stopped. And it sure seems like that dimension that's being used there could be put to much better use.
That is actually a condition of approval for the Terraces project. So
okay.
It's been in the mix since day one.
Okay, it was a city stipulation then.
It was a mitigation that the Terraces development
okay. It just
put
seems
in
like
to
a really
mitigate their traffic.
Missed that. I expected that. It just seems like a real missed opportunity. The second is kind of related, and that's the elimination of parking and the kind of drop off that's been provided. I think I provided some photos before of what happens, and hopefully you or your staff or the consultant has visited the site during kind of the AM high school drop off and the PM pickup. In particular, this impacts the pickup, I think, because unlike the drop off where someone just pulls in and pulls out, when you pick up, the parents come and they park and they sit and they wait. And so what I've observed, and I think in the photos that I sent, and at least on the current condition, there's at least 20 spaces of length of car, the existing parking spaces that are used on a daily basis by the parents. And what they can do when there's kind of this unlimited line of parking stalls is they're not trying to maneuver in and out of a tight space. Right now looks like maybe room for 7 cars in that pullout. And so it just seems like it's going to create a huge potential congestion problem right at that intersection, and right kind of at a real bad traffic time of the high school getting out. And it just seems it would be nice if there could be additional length added, because what parents can do now is they don't have to back in, they don't have to parallel park. They're always going to pull around someone and go in forward and out forward. So that's a real concern I have on what's shown.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can't really change that drop off and pickup area because
could you add to
we
it?
don't have the right of way, and it also runs into the an access point to the terraces development.
Right, but I mean past the access point. Right now, people
Past
are
the access
parking
point,
past the
we
access
don't.
point.
Yeah, we don't have right of way either because the trap lane is eating it up.
Well, but the terraces are required to mitigate certain things. I'm asking, can the terraces provide? Okay,
Yeah,
well, I guess what I'm saying is clearly you are creating a worse condition than what exists, and I think it's going to be a problem. That's a statement.
Fair point.
My second comment is just more of a statement, and it's not specific to the design, but it's about a construction if this goes forward. I think at a recent meeting, maybe it was a city council meeting, there was a comment about if this went ahead, the construction would be done in the evening. And I want to voice, oh no, okay, it would be done it wouldn't be done at night.
Let me step back on that comment a bit. It depends. So a very large portion of this reach of project is within the Caltrans right of way. So Caltrans gets to dictate when we can work in their right of way. So much like when we repaved Pleasant Hill Road, what was that, 3-4 years ago, we had to do all that work at night because Caltrans made us do it at night.
Right, and that's my concern, because I suffered through that, and it was really to hear jackhammering at 3 in the morning.
Oh, it's terrible.
Traffic, it's terrible. So I just want to, understood. Okay, so specific comments on the drawing. One other comment on page 18. I'm concerned that there isn't really delineation of kind of I'll call it, practice an architect, a sequence of operations or something that describes cyclist movements, all their options, and what they're asked to do. So when I look at, for instance, on page 18, it's just if the intent is for cyclists to always be using the crosswalks, I think that's not a good design. And I think there should become some consideration that cyclists want to use traffic lanes, even if they're accessing the center median. It's just not, it's going to be incredibly inconvenient to stop your bike, get off, and make multiple crosswalk crossings.
Right. So if I understand your position correctly,
Right.
The Sharrow lanes should be shown on the plans. And I don't think they're shown, so you're correct. That needs to be shown.
Yeah, that was a separate comment.
Cyclists that do not wish to use the center median can still use the road with Sharrows. The crosswalk area, it's not super clear on this, but there is green delineated areas for the cyclists as part of the crosswalks.
No, my comment, the Sharrows is a comment that they're not shown, and I think it's, but separately, what I'm saying is I think it's unfortunate and not necessarily the best design if you're insisting that the cyclists make all their movements on the crosswalks, even if they're in green. That, for instance, currently on the drawing you have, if I'm going north on Pleasant Hill Road and I want to turn left, I'm going to be in the left turn lane. I'm not going to go to the side. And so right now if I was in the median, it would be nice if I I'm going to want to, if I have an opening and there's a left turn happening, you know, can I turn left? That's probably not the best example, but
Well,
I'm just,
let me see if I best way to do this is kind of a pretend scenario. So if I'm
right.
coming northbound on Pleasant Hill Road, and I'm a cyclist and I'm starting at the freeway, I'm going to be on the far right-hand side of the street, riding where the sharrows are.
No, I mean, in the
So-
median. I really am
in
talking
the
about,
median.
if I'm in the median, it would be
Got
nice
it.
for the consultants to consider, are there movements that can be made that don't involve all the multiple traffic signal crossings like they would be
Such
doing
as?
normally, such as, let's
I
say,
mean, give me an example so
yeah,
I can
no,
try and
that's what I
understand.
was trying to do and I didn't do a good job, but I'll try. If I'm coming southbound on Pleasant Hill Road,
North of the intersection
north
with
of the
Deer Hill, or-
intersection, I'm
Okay.
coming south.
Got it.
So let's say I want to go straight on Pleasant Hill Road.
Uh-huh.
If there, for the one thing, I think if it was me, I would want to be lining up on the between the right-hand turn lane, because I don't want to turn right. I want to go straight. And right now, that's where I would be, and I would just go straight and continue. So the question is, why isn't this showing? If I was a bicycle and I didn't want to wait to go through the crosswalk, at least to get across Deer Hill and Stanley,
Yeah,
I would want to
see what
sit
you're
there.
saying.
And if
So
there
you're
was no
saying-
traffic, I
Yeah,
would
so
probably be
if-
swinging all the way across.
If you're, can you see my little hand?
Yeah, I
in
can.
the cursor. So if you're a cyclist and you're here, so you're not in the right
Right.
turn lane, you're in the through lane, and you want to get onto the pathway. The question is, it would be nice to be able to do this.
Right. Or even
Right.
going straight to avoid the crosswalk. Yeah. I
Well,
mean, sorry. Yes. Yeah, you're right.
So you would go straight and then you would turn in.
Yeah. Or at
I
least I
think-
would get across to at least one intersection without having to go across the crosswalk. Even if I
Right,
had to sit on the corner of,
Got it. So I think the idea, well, part of that would have been accomplished with a scramble intersection.
Right.
That would be a good way to do that, but we're not doing that. I think the concern would be that having a cyclist who's in the through lane, you get a green light and you're going through, and then you're going to try and go into the center median. You're going to be unexpectedly braking for someone who is behind you in a car.
no, I
So
was
think
saying
that creates an unsafe situation.
no, but at least getting across, and I may not have picked the best example, but I don't think consideration has been, I'm just saying, I think someone should sit and say, okay, I'm a bicyclist. I'm coming south on Pleasant Hill Road. What happens when I turn right? What happens if I want to go straight down and to the median? What happens when I want to turn left? If I want to turn left, I want to get in the left turn lane. I don't want to have to go across all these crosswalks. I want to get in the left-hand turn lane.
If you want to turn left, you do it the way you would normally do it. If you want to turn left onto Stanley, you get in the left turn pocket and you turn left.
Right. So is there any bicycle marking for that?
No.
Is there any bicycle? So I just think that you're missing an opportunity in this design.
I'm not sure what that bicycle marking would look like, to be perfectly honest.
Just, I guess, to say that the bicycle is allowed to be in the left turn lane. And then can he trigger a left turn signal anyways? Are there accommodations?
He can trigger it.
Okay.
Yeah, because all these signals are going to be video detected.
Okay, so unlike now, because right now, like if I'm on
Right now,
Stanley
good
going
luck.
north, I'm in trouble if no car shows up. I'll be there
Yep.
forever.
Because it's all inductive loops and most
Okay, so that's
bicycles don't
great.
have enough metal.
So that's my comment, is just consideration of these movements, and can I minimize? And it's the same at the opposite end of this on Diablo is, thinking of someone, is there ways that they can more easily, without being dangerous, but a cyclist is going to want to try an easier path to get to this center median than waiting at every signal, pushing the button and walking their bike across.
Right.
So I think that it's a narrative sequence that just says, here's what we expect people to do at each condition would be nice to know what the designer's thinking is going to happen.
Yeah, I think the design intent is you'll use the sidewalk, or you'll do standard cycling procedures when you're in a vehicle lane, which is you behave like a vehicle.
Okay.
Okay.
And I have one specific comment here too. I think
Great.
that the condition that was talked about previously, where you're at the intersection near the Shell station, at that intersection, you can see the little bike symbol there.
Yep.
I think as designed, this is a very, very awkward condition, and that if I'm a bicyclist, I want to, let's say I'm coming north on the center median, I want to continue north on Pleasant Hill Road. So I come across the sidewalk and I have a 10-foot, which I think is relatively narrow for a lane, but there's certainly difficult to get a bike there and a car to turn right around it. So I'm blocking traffic. If I'm one bike, I want to go straight.
Right, so you would be in the bike box here.
And blocking the right-hand turn lane. Because you've put,
Correct.
unlike now, where there's a spot for a bike to sit or a number of
Right.
bikes to sit, I don't have that.
Correct.
And if you can imagine a group of 4 cyclists, let's say a group of 4 cyclists, which is not unusual, is going north on the median, they come across, where are they putting their bikes?
They're just completely in the bike box.
In 4 bicycles?
Well, it's 10 feet wide. You can fit 4 bicycles in 10 feet.
All right. It seemed like
your
a difficult condition.
Your point that it blocks the right turn lane is a good point.
Right. Okay. That was just the one location that seemed challenging. All right. Let me see if I have anything else. Those were my quick it would be helpful if the sharrows and the other markings were on the drawing. The striping drawings seemed like they were incomplete.
Well, they are at 75%.
Right. No, understood. But
that's good catch.
And then one other just fussy comment is, I think it's just a graphic thing, but they're showing kind of demo and new work on the same drawing, and in particular, all the existing roadsides that aren't grayed out look like they're in the middle of the road. And I was trying for a while to figure out what are these things in the middle of the road.
Yep. Good point.
That's all I got. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
The next speaker is Brad.
Hello, Brad. Welcome.
Good evening, Brad. You may go ahead.
I think you're muted, Brad.
Yeah, hey everyone, sorry for the delay. Matt, echoing everyone's thoughts and thanking you for all the time you put into this. No, it's not an easy one. Dialing in tonight from Springbrook, where there's an end of year swim team event, and I've spoken to about 25 people tonight. I'd say that about half of those people didn't even know this existed. About a quarter were vaguely familiar with it, and about a quarter were familiar with it. No one that I've spoken with is supportive of it. The general concerns I've heard are that people will still use the eastbound or the east sidewalk. The sidewalk, it's unclear what the barriers will be if we're moving cars closer, getting rid of the parking. So I think that people are generally concerned about that. And then the complexity it will create at the Stanley intersection, particularly someone mentioned with the lanes shifting over. It might create additional hazards for people for that intersection. So anyway, wanted to pass those comments along. I would pass my phone around, but we're in the middle of a coach's speeches right now. So so unfortunately people are glued to that. So anyway, that's the general feedback of the Springbrook people that I've spoken with, and most of these people live in this area, as you probably know.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
You bet.
The next speaker is Jennifer.
Well, remember everybody,
Hi.
if you have a question, sorry, Jennifer, I don't mean to interrupt you, but anybody, if you have a question, please raise your hand. That's how we know you want to talk. And welcome, Jennifer.
Great, thank you so much. Just wanted to clarify a few things. One, did you say that the pedestrian buffer is now going to be reduced to only 1.5 feet?
It depends a great deal on where you're standing. So
If I'm on the east side pathway, and I want to continue to be a pedestrian on the sidewalk.
So if you're in basically the turn lane area next to the gas station, that's 1.5 is probably about all you'll get, if that much. It'll be very tight, somewhat similar to the way it is now. Other portions are going to have more space, so you could have in excess of 3 feet. So it varies.
So if I'm walking, but as a pedestrian, if I am walking from the gas station, I'm going towards the freeway, the buffer has been greatly reduced. Is that correct?
Not in the turn pocket area, it has not. Matter of fact, if you're going to all the way to Ocolonus Avenue, the buffer is arguably a little better.
And then going under the freeway?
Once you go past Ocolonus Avenue, it does get worse than it is now. No two ways about it.
Okay.
Especially as you get in between the on and off ramps.
Yeah.
There's currently parking. I believe there's parking in that area. If not,
there's
a wide shoulder. So, that's 7-8 feet worth of existing buffer that goes away.
Can we get that added so we can just see that? No. I understand. I assume you wouldn't add more space, or you could. If you could, you would. But
Right.
I'm asking, could it be on the drawing so the public can see the space that's there?
Well, that was kind of that was Stella's question as well.
Okay.
And we can perhaps annotate that a little bit better. But this is the last of the public meetings really before we go to 100% plans on this project. But I can certainly see if we can't get a little bit more annotation on it, because that'll probably help inform the conversations when we're looking at the east side sidewalk as well. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
And thank you. That would be great. And is it possible that we could have consultants come, to speak with us? One of these, even at the last meeting, because typically, I've gone to a lot of city meetings and we've had the consultants come to kind of be a part of the conversation and answer some of the questions as well. Is that possible?
Not at the next meetings. No, we are pretty much out of budget, and the meeting that we're going to have where we're talking about the east side pathway, center median, all that stuff. We don't have any funding for consultants for that. So regrettably, you're stuck with me.
And also, is the median, is there a chance for the median to only be a bike path? I don't know. I missed the beginning of the meeting, so I don't know if that was asked before.
You and Stella should hang out together. You're thinking exactly alike.
Well, there you go.
So yeah, that was Stella's suggestion too, is perhaps it could be narrowed. And then that extra width given to the east side buffer. That is certainly an option that could be discussed at that later meeting. But again, we don't have any funding for any of that design work that would need to be done.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can do scoping level. That's what I'm going to do for the east side. That's what I already promised the city council I would do. If they want me to do more than that, we're going to have a conversation about how that slots into my workload and what other things they do or don't want me to do.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments.
The next speaker is Hannah Yang.
Hi, Hannah. Welcome.
Oh, hello. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, I have to say yes. I'm kind of like a fully support this project, for about more than 2 years. And unfortunately, my son decided 2 years ago to go to Campo, partly because you don't have this bike lane. And then I was very concerned about his safety biking to school. Although it takes only about 20 minutes for him to bike from my house to Acalanes. But, you know, we don't want to risk that, you know, 1 second of mistake could be forever, right? So, anyway, so I think I heard when you and you talked twice about the scrambling intersection. You said that idea will not go, but I think that is actually a great idea to resolve the question that Steve has, and I think another lady talked about, like the very crowded corner in the gas station. And I want to know why the scrambling intersection is a no-go in your mind. And, you know, we have a lot of those examples. For example, in San Francisco, financial district, there are a lot of those scrambling intersections for pedestrians to cross, you know, like any directions at the same time. And also Oakland, Chinatown area, there are a lot of those scrambling sections. I think that's a great idea. And I want to hear why you think that's a no-go here.
Well, when at one of our last public meetings where we talked about that, the community said that they didn't support it, and they didn't support it because it added additional vehicle delay for people trying to get through this corridor in cars. So they felt that the extent of the delay caused by the scramble intersection was not acceptable. But as I explained to one of the earlier callers, the beautiful thing about signal timing is if people's opinion of that changes, you know, let's presume that we build this and we have it just as it is, and people decide, you know, boy, there's an awful lot of people using this. A scramble intersection might be a better idea now. Maybe we can live with that delay. We can certainly implement it. Changing the intersection from a non-scramble to a scramble is not particularly expensive or difficult. So it can always be changed in the future if people's opinion of the delay changes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. That's and I'm even thinking you could make it, for example, you know, rush hours, like, you know, 8 to 9 and 3 to 5. Yep. You know, you could have it, but other time, you know, you will not have it, right? So that's another idea. So, okay, that's great. And that's all my questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate you stopping by.
The next speaker is Libby Henry.
Hi, Libby, welcome back. I think you're muted, Libby.
Yeah, sorry about that. I figured there would be a lot more people asking questions, but the more that you know, I looked at the diagram and stuff, and there's a bunch of things that I guess I don't understand. The first thing that comes to mind, since you just mentioned it, was the, I don't know what this scramble thing, what does that mean?
Okay, a scramble intersection is, they have the closest one I know of is downtown Walnut Creek. So you do that at intersections that have high pedestrian volumes where people want to go to all the different legs of the intersection.
Like
so what you do,
by Broadway Plaza or something?
Yeah, so what you do is you put the entire intersection on stop, so the cars can't go anywhere, and then you let the pedestrians go wherever they want. So the pedestrians can go diagonally across the intersections rather than doing multiple paths of travel to get to a corner. So you can diagonally your way across the intersection.
But I mean, it's for what, you know, 3 minutes or something?
Probably less than that, but yes. So the problem is you're holding up all the traffic for that time period. So it does create additional delay.
Okay. And then looking at that diagram, now somebody, Steve, I think it was, mentioned about the left turn from, you know, Pleasant Hill South onto Stanley Boulevard, for example. I
Mhm.
didn't see a left turn lane. I saw that that chevron thing. Is that supposed? I didn't understand
That
what all that was.
chevron is it. Well, here, let me share my screen again.
I mean, you're not eliminating the left turn lane, are you?
No, 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 no. That would be dreadful.
Yeah.
So to another fair
I don't
point,
see a left.
they
Every place
they-
else I see the turns.
right, they didn't put it on. Missing striping. Thank
what?
you.
Oh, okay. So
So that this
it
should have
wasn't me,
little
it
left.
was them. Okay.
It
Because
was
I was
them.
looking, I said, well, they have the turns things on all the other places, but I don't see a left turn on there. So that
Yep.
kind of worried me. Not being the technical engineering person, is 11 feet the standard width for a lane of traffic?
Lafayette, we allow lanes to drop to 10.
I mean, on Pleasant Hill Road, is that what it is now?
In parts of Pleasant Hill Road and some lanes, it's 11, some lanes it's 12. It, like everything in this town, it's highly variable.
Okay, but I mean, you're showing 11 feet,
Right.
the lanes. I'm
Right.
asking.
That
So
is an acceptable width.
that would not change. However, obviously with the thing in the middle, that's going to reduce space on the side. So this, you keep saying buffer. I think to me, I would say sidewalk.
Well,
Is
they're talking about a buffer between the vehicle lanes and the face of curb. So, here, let me move this over.
so you're not talking about eliminating the sidewalk.
No, 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 no. They're talking about the space between where the cars are driving and where the sidewalk is. They would like to see essentially a wider lane adjacent to the sidewalk so that the vehicles aren't quite so close to the face of curb.
Well, don't
So
they
if
have
the-
those little, you know, I don't know what the heck they are, little, they're not cones, but they're little,
Yeah, the
Ponds
little
that-
candlesticks.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's what we have out there now, kind of leading into that turn pocket. But I think what people are saying is, let me scroll to it. For example, when you get to the portion underneath the freeway here, there aren't any cones there or anything, and they would like to see this vehicle lane made wider and perhaps even a stripe put along the edge of the road to create a little bit of distance between where cars are driving and the face of curb, a little bit more distance, if you will, than what you could assume on this drawing. So that may mean a bigger lane. Right now, that distance is slightly variable. For example, if you look over here where the stripe exists for the cars coming off the freeway, you have a decent amount of space between that stripe and the face of curb. But when you get over here, you have very little space between the stripe and the face of curb. Now, admittedly, you're also in a merge lane, so everybody's trying to get over. They're not trying to stay in this lane. But it's a fair point that this is putting cars closer to the sidewalk.
Okay, but it's not you're not eliminating the I'm just trying to figure out how you can have that much space in the middle and not eliminate the lane, you know, for traffic, or make them narrower lanes, or what? Because
Right. So
I mean,
mostly
that was
the way
initially my next question was to ask. I mean, the reason I raised my hand again was to say, have you done, and I'm still having a real hard time, you know, logically speaking, I would think that you would do these studies before you start doing planning. But it sounds like maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying, oh, you know, that comes after. But, you know, I asked about have you done studies about who would utilize this median? But on the flip side, what about studying or projection of how it would adversely affect I'm saying adversely, my word. The traffic, the regular traffic.
So we did do we did do that study.
You did.
So yeah,
And-
in our early meetings, that was what was driving a lot of the decision making, is because people were very concerned about how this project would impact the flow of traffic. So that's how we kind of winnowed this all down. And then to your secondary question, which is where did the space come from to do this center median? A lot of that space came from getting rid of parking. That's where a good amount of space came from. Another healthy chunk of space.
Well, there's only parking for, you know, on the west side, southbound on Pleasant Hill between Deer Hill and.
There was a little bit on the east side too, underneath the freeway.
Yeah, underneath the
And just
freeway,
north
but.
of it. So we took that away. We took away the parking on the east side. We shifted the center median over to the west, and the terraces development provided us with a little extra real estate on the Deer Hill end to allow us to shift the road to the west on their side. So there's quite a few moving pieces associated with it.
Okay, now you said you did do a study, so I don't recall that being discussed, and I know I was on one of the earliest meeting that I remember, but I don't remember that being discussed. But
The study was a traffic study.
Is it accessible on the website or something?
Yeah, I think it's still on the website, but the traffic study was done very early on. It wasn't a needs study. It was a traffic study to determine how this project would impact the flow of traffic. Could we do scramble intersections? What would happen if we got rid of the right turn lane going on to Stanley Boulevard? Things like that. That was probably the first, 2 or 3 meetings that we had for this project were hashing through those details.
Well, I remember talking about it, but I don't remember you presenting a study of, you know, the results.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, well, that's what I don't know about. I'm just, you know, the intersections, you know, the freeway off and on ramps. Couldn't a very simple solution be to have the, you know, they can put in timed, or I don't know if they would be scrambled, like you said, timed lights that let people across and bikes across.
Yeah, so that's kind of what the RRFBs are. They're not an actual signal, it's just flashing yellow lights.
What did you call them?
RRFB, it's rectangular
stand for?
rapid flashing beacons. We've started scattering those all over town. There's a bunch of them in the roundabout at the crosswalks there. So those just warn motorists that somebody is about to go into the crosswalk. They don't actually stop anybody. It's not a stoplight. And since Caltrans controls those points, I think I did talk to Caltrans about what
$1 that you mentioned that they'd be willing to do.
No, early on, Caltrans, or the city council asked me to go talk to Caltrans and find out what it would take to put traffic signals at the on and off ramps. I talked to Caltrans, and it would be an extremely expensive study because we would need to do detailed modeling on how that would impact their facilities. And if it had any impact at all on their facilities, they wouldn't permit it. So that was part 1 of the problem. And part 2 of the problem is each of those signals could be in the range of $500,000 to $750,000. So they're breathtakingly expensive. And then the whole issue of how does this get maintained, because it's in Caltrans right away, but they would undoubtedly make us maintain them. So that's why that idea kind of went away. And then Caltrans informed us that they were putting in the RRFBs. So the idea was, let's see how those play out. But that's all good ideas for that later meeting when we're talking about the alternatives, like an east side pathway, things like that.
Oh, we're gonna have another meeting about that.
We're gonna have another meeting, but that one's just gonna be about alternatives. This project will be wrapped up by then, as far as design work goes. So it'll be 100% completed, plan specs, ready to go and put on a shelf.
Yeah, you
And then we're
mentioned
gonna-
100% plan. I like, is that the next phase or something?
Right, so right now we're at 75% plans, which is why it's missing little things like striping things here and there. So the next thing is we tell I provide my comments to the consultant and say, please finish drafting the plans, please finish up the design, finish up the estimate, and finish up the specifications so that we have a complete package that could conceivably go out to bid. So that's the next step. So that's what they'll do, preferably by the end of the year. But as I told the city council, at their request, I will be coming back to the community with an east side option, is what they specifically asked me to do. But at that meeting, that's the time when all of you that wish to see other options explored, feel free to tell those to us. And then I will report that back to the city council, and the city council at that time can decide what they want to do. If they want to explore those, they're going to need to allocate funding to explore them, or they may not.
And wouldn't that come from the grant money or not?
Nope, the grant money will be all spent by then.
Well, then obviously we already know what the answer is. We don't have any money to do that.
It depends. If the city council wishes to seek additional grant money to explore other options, they can do that. If the city wishes to allocate general fund money to it, they can do that. But as all of you know, if you allocate general fund money from one thing, it has to come from somewhere else.
Right.
So that's when they do their priorities and figure out what the community wishes to do with our limited resources.
Okay, well,
Okay.
is it possible, can I email you and ask for the link to whatever it is that I missed?
It should
no.
be on the project website.
Okay, but the project website, is that under the city's website?
Yep.
Okay,
Can't find it, send me an email and I'll send you a link.
all right. Okay, thanks a lot for your time, Matt.
You bet. Have a good evening.
You too.
The next speaker is Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl. I think you're muted, Cheryl.
Thank you. Every little bit helps.
Yeah. Well, welcome to our meeting.
Thank you. I came in a little bit late. I saw probably the last third of Stella, and had to drop out quickly. So I'm kind of trying to wrap up where Libby left off, and just to confirm what I'm hearing. So when this project will be finished with its design, it's gonna be, you're saying, put on a shelf until it goes to a city council meeting? Is that correct?
Right, so we'll finish the design and then the city council asked me to explore east side alternatives and other things. At that point, they could say, after I report back on the public meeting for east side alternatives, after they hear the ideas, they could conceivably say, we don't like any of those. Let's go after grant funding to build this center median thing. They could also say, let's go vet these other alternatives more. These seem to have more support. let's see if we can get some grant money to do more studies and design for that. Or they could just put all that information aside and do nothing. There's probably some other variations on a theme that they could do as well. But at this point in time, there's no money to build anything. So it's
I mean,
not
they're going
like
after
once,
they're going after a half cent in sales tax, so that tells you that there's not a lot of gravy.
right. So it's not like once we have these 100% plans, the city is gonna sneakily go out there and build it. That's not gonna happen.
Well, sometimes and I wouldn't use the word sneaky, but they find Patrick might find a grant, or someone might find a grant, and time wise they have to go get it, and then we get brought in
Right.
afterwards.
So
That's not necessarily sneaky, but it's
right.
unfortunate.
Well, the process now, because that's kind of how we've gotten ourselves in a pickle with this in the first place, is that the city council and Patrick have worked on, here's our list of things we want you to go after grant money on. So right now, this project isn't on that list. So this project would need to go on that list before Patrick even chased after grant money for it.
You know, I actually vaguely, thank you for your memory, because I vaguely remember that. Okay. So, and then
we
this
try to learn
project
from our mistakes.
yeah, it's a good thing for all of us. So this project actually got started before we knew about the RF, the lights on the so is it possible that because that all happened prior to the lights at the end of the freeways may actually solve some of the problems that brought us to have the median project going in the first place, that the east end might be a viable alternative because the lights, we didn't know about the lights are coming in, it solves the problem or helps solve the problem.
That's why the city council asked me to do a study for an east side option, is precisely for that reason.
And can you recall or remind me, what you recall, can you remind me or what you're supposed to gather for the east side? What is your job? I know it's not going out. I know it's not going out to someone else. So what is your job for the east side?
I'm going to have to design a scoping level drawing for the east side,
which would include or not include the median.
The median, what would happen is I would get rid of the center median design, so that pathway would go away. So I could use all that real estate that's out there in the center median. I could use that to do something different on the east side. I don't know what yet, because I haven't had time to start that.
Right.
You can conceivably put in a K-rail down the middle of Pleasant Hill Road so that you could have as much right away as possible for the east side. You could conceivably only use up half of the center median stuff, land, and maybe put in a landscape strip. There are lots of ways you could slice and dice this.
When you do that, are you going to have those kind of options, like the K rail, this rail? Like you're going to have like two or three alternatives?
Probably just come up with one option, because it's fairly time consuming to do this, and I'm already kind of pushing my luck with promises made to the city council, and I want to make sure that I fulfill those promises. So I'll start with one that I think is responsive to the comments that the residents have given us over these past couple of years. And then that's a kind of a starting point for the conversation.
Got it.
And if the city council wishes me to allocate more staff time and resources to broadening that conversation, they may do so at that time.
Okay. And then I had one other question. The land that you were talking about, I believe with Libby and maybe prior as well, is the land that the terrace is allocated for you. Isn't that supposed to be for school drop off and pickup?
Mm-hmm.
Car lot? That's not for the bike path or lane. That's already allocated for like the school drop off pickup, isn't it?
Right. It's how you do the center median, and that kind of shoves the whole road, including that drop off area and the sidewalk. It shoved all of that about 4 feet further to the west than the city had. Might have been more than 4 feet. than we had right away for.
Oh, so it went into the terrace's property.
Right, so they gave us that property, or will give us that property to make all this stuff fit. And if we don't do the center median, we still have all that space that we can work with.
Okay. So I guess, what is your time, if this is the last meeting, what is the time frame for this going to the council? What's the time frame of this being completed and going to the council, like ish?
Not really sure. I need to have a conversation with the city manager about when she wants me to do that. But it definitely before the end of the year.
Okay. When is this project completed ish?
The design work on this by the end of the year.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, thank you.
I've got a busy end of the year coming ahead.
It sounds like it. We'll see you often at the end of the year.
Yeah,
And thank you, Matt.
you bet.
The next speaker is Stella Wotherspoon.
Welcome back, Stella.
Thank you, Matt. So I just wanted to follow up on a few things. So one was, I heard Libby Henry asking questions about the buffer and the sidewalk, and I just want to maybe clarify my comments. So the sidewalk right now is 6 foot, I think, standard, and there's right now a gutter pan of 1.5 feet, I think, then a bike lane that's maybe 5 feet or so, and then there's a buffer on the bike lane. So basically you extend out about 8 foot to 12 foot in some places where there's parking as well down the road. Then that's a distance from vehicles moving to people on the sidewalk.
Right, in the current configuration.
In the current configuration.
When you're south of Acalanes Avenue. North of Acalanes Avenue, it's all very tight now.
Well, yeah, no, north of it, it's got the right turn lane where cars are slowing down to get to the light. So it's not the same kind of traffic. And so the traffic has been measured in the city's recent study in this northbound direction as 46 miles per hour prevailing. That's way over the speed limit. And there's still people that go even faster than that were recorded. So it's the situation, it's a super high fast boulevard. And by putting those cars 1.5 feet from people on the sidewalk, it's creating a very unsafe and unpleasant experience. So,
so the whole
concern.
point though is that they're supposed to be in the center of the road. The sidewalk is a redundant feature.
That's the
with
issue.
this design.
But I mean, designs are designs on paper, but people don't always do what paper says.
Totally understand, but just to make it clear, they're not supposed to be there if they're that uncomfortable with the cars close to them.
Yeah, well, I think that's certainly debatable because we have an existing.
Right. So that's what we debate about in the next meeting.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I just want to clarify, this is the concern, this is the issue. And
no, I get it.
Itself is prioritizing this sidewalk through their RRFBs and their enhanced lighting at the crosswalks. So, you know, it's actually quite at odds with this design, which is unfortunate. That's where I was hoping the consultants would be able to find ways to mitigate this this issue. So so I hope they will be able to at some point. I understand
they won't, because they're out of money. If we don't get more money, then they're not going to be able to look at it anymore.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I understand that right now. I do regret that there was not an action to go back to the state grantors to make a revision to the terms of the grant to be able to come up with a solution that did not have this level of remaining negative effect on existing facilities. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. The other thing I was curious about, I wonder if you could, just looking for it right now, I think it's the page 17, it's the area, oh, I'm sorry, no, I think maybe it's 18, hold on. It is the area that shows the southbound Pleasant Hill Road lanes north of Deer Hill. And it's pretty hard to read because there's a lot of change happening with the shift in the lanes to the west. And so I wonder if you could maybe walk through, where is the left turn lane and where's
Here's the left
lane?
Here's the left turn lane.
And okay, hold on. I'm sorry, the right turn lane. Sorry.
Here's the right turn lane.
And is that actually where it's where it like that's the design per the terraces? The right turn pocket is only that size?
Yes, I mean that's the size it is now.
Okay, so it wasn't being extended. I can't
No.
remember because it's been
Yeah,
so
it's
long.
not.
Okay, so then that is staying as is, and the trap lane is adjacent to it.
Yeah, the trap lane, I guess it kind of starts here
Yeah.
and goes through the intersection.
And where does it start, or where does it come from on the north part? I know it starts to fade out, but
it fades out kind of as part of the right turn lane.
so are there 3 lanes then in that part where it's fading out? And one goes into the left
I
lane?
think it goes. Yeah, one of them. That's a good question. We'll get some more clarity on that.
Okay, because it looks like, yeah, there's one left lane that then branches into 2. It branches into 2 with one being that left turn pocket, I think.
Yeah,
And
fair
then,
point. We'll get a little more clarity on that.
okay, and then the other option for the person in that left lane is to go along kind of straight, and then that big triangle in the middle with the chevrons, you're saying that's a space that separates or guides the people
Yeah,
in the
it separates the left turn pocket from the through lane.
Okay, got it. That's helpful. Yeah, that would be great to understand what's going on with that left lane. And then the last thing I wanted to just bring up, since a couple of folks had asked about scrambles, and you referred to the decision to not go forward with design with a scramble, but then you mentioned like it could be revisited. And just to be realistic, I mean, we were talking about the traffic study said some of the turn movements were a minute delay PM peak, and with the scramble they'd be 5 minutes delay PM peak. So it was that magnitude of change, which was why the decision council made was to move away from the scramble features. And so, you know,
and I didn't remember the exact delays, so I just knew it was not insignificant and therefore not supported.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they were really extreme, and it's because it's a really complicated signal. It has like 5 or 7 phases. It's not it's a busy one, and it's not like it doesn't have enough room, right, to have 2 left turns running at the same time, which is what causes the number of phases. So anyway, I just wanted to raise that because you're kind of getting people's hopes up a bit about, oh, we could just revisit it. And just
we can revisit it.
It's more complicated.
Yeah, if people are okay with that delay, we can certainly revisit it.
Yeah, but you know what the reaction was.
I can't imagine that they will be okay with that, but
right.
Go ahead, prove me wrong.
Right. Okay. I just wanted to put that out there just for a little real talk about
Fair enough.
To the decision making on that. All right. Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Matt.
You bet.
The next speaker is Steve Slizek.
Hello again, Steve.
All right, sorry for prolonging this. I just have one quick question regarding the terrace. I hope it's quick. The terraces project. So I'm assuming that the terraces probably precedes the median.
Yeah.
Potentially. So the drawing here, that kind of west side of Pleasant Hill, that kind of that'll be locked. And so that'll create a new west edge. And if there is, this drawing shows the detail of what happens with the median, but is there something that shows what happens now that we're adding this additional lane and everything else? What happens to the existing, if the median's never built, or the pathway, what about the bike lane that exist and so on with these other changes? Is there some drawing that documents that?
No. So if this project never gets built and the terraces goes ahead and builds theirs, at that time, we have the option to put the bike lane back in. We can do whatever we want with that real estate from the center median, to some extent.
So it's not part of their design. That would be something that, I mean, something has to happen because,
I mean, you could
things will be
even go so
different,
far
yeah.
as to just paint out a new median.
right.
Don't build
So-
it, just paint it.
Someone will be designing restriping once this curb moves. Something will have to
Right.
be done, and that's in the future. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Fair enough.
I see
All
no,
right.
I see no more hands raised.
Me either. So with that, again, I want to thank all of you for participating. Really appreciate the good questions. And it sounds like I'll be seeing a lot of you at future meetings. So thank you. Whoop, looks like Paul's raising his hand. Grace, you want to let Paul in?
Yes, he's joining now.
Hi, Paul. I think you're muted.
Sorry, there we go. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I just wanted to just one quick question. What's the likelihood, Matt, that you see the terraces project starting? You just mentioned that the median will not happen until the terraces is built. Is that correct?
Well, that's my assumption. The terraces is working on their final plans, their grading and improvement plans. I know I've seen several iterations, but those I think they're wrapping them up relatively soon.
So can you give us some sort of, I mean, not going to hold you to it. Can you give me some sort of take on what kind of time frame we're talking about if this ever, like you keep saying, if this ever gets built?
Right. So as far as the terraces aspect of that, I would send you off to go talk to the planning department. They know more about what they're up to than I am. I'm looking at this, and let's assume we finish the designs and everybody is super excited about it all of a sudden. And everybody wants to build it right now. We don't have any money for it. So we'd have to find the funding to build it. So that would take some time to go out and find the funding. I'm guessing more than a year. Once we get the funding, then we have to fit it into our workload. And right now our workload is pretty full for the next couple of years. We've got a project at the BART parking lot, and we also have the School Street Topper Lane projects. Those are going to eat up quite a bit of staff time for the next 2 years. So on year 3, if all the stars align, then conceivably you could do this project if you found the money. So that's a lot of ifs and hopes. So that's my best guess at this point, but it's a pretty terrible guess because there's lots of assumptions in there.
Okay, so funding isn't big issue. 3 years is a possibility. Terraces, you're not sure of the plan. If you and you've been doing this a long time. If you had your your choice, would it be best to not even think about this until all of that construction with the terraces is done and then make it happen?
In terms of ease of construction, yes.
Okay, because you just mentioned you were going to have to paint out the bike lanes and all. I mean, I just can't imagine putting all of that money and all that time and all that effort, and then this construction company comes in with moving tons and tons of dirt. So your best take is, hey, let's just wait and see what happens. If that terraces ever gets built, we can revisit this. Is that pretty much fair to say that?
I think what's fair to say is I don't want to build this at the same time as the terrace is building their project.
All right,
I think the logistics associated with that would be absolutely a nightmare, not just for me.
I couldn't agree more.
Public.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think the community's behind you on that one. Thank you.
You bet. All right. So now it looks like we have no more hands. So again, thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll be seeing you.